We're looking at a passage this morning from one of the shorter books in the New Testament, Paul's second letter to the Thessalonians. Paul, along with Timothy and Silas, came to Thessalonica. It's in the northern part of modern Greece. Came there about 50 A.D. As he always did, Paul preached first in the synagogue. His success at converting Jews and Gentile God-fearers created resentment among the leaders of the synagogue. We read about this in the book of Acts. They stirred up such opposition to him that Paul and his companions had to leave town by night. Not long after that, Paul sent Timothy back to Thessalonica to see how this young congregation was doing. And encouraged by Timothy's report, he wrote 2 short letters to that church. One issue about which there seemed to be some misunderstanding was the second coming of Christ. Some Christians believed that it was so close at hand that there was no need to exert themselves. They didn't have to do anything. As we'll see in our reading, Paul brought those folks up pretty short. If you don't work, he says, you don't eat. 2 Thessalonians provides insight into another problem that Paul faced and that any writer in antiquity faced. How would anybody know if the letter came from its alleged author? You know, they didn't have postmarks. They didn't have ways of identifying a signature. Really, most people who wrote dictated to a scribe, and so who knows, whose handwriting it would be. Earlier in this letter, Paul cautions the little church that they're not to be deceived by letters purporting to be from him. And that, I think, is amazing. Even during Paul's lifetime, people were creating documents, forging documents under his name. Heretical groups who wanted their ideas to appear legitimate would write something and put Paul's name on it. And over the next couple of centuries, several dozen documents, letters, gospels, and acts were circulated under Paul's name. For example, at the end of the letter to Colossae, he says that he has written a letter to the nearby church at Laodicea. We don't have that letter, but we do have a forgery that claims to be that letter. Fortunately, by the time the New Testament canon was being settled in the 4th century, church leaders recognized, for the most part, which documents were not really Paul's. There has been some controversy among modern scholars over the authorship of 2 Thessalonians, but no one has presented any really overwhelming arguments against its genuineness. So let's read this passage now as it appears in your bulletin or in your pew Bible. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we command you, brothers and sisters, to keep away from every believer who is idle and disruptive and does not live according to the teaching you received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to follow our example. We were not idle when we were with you, nor did we eat anyone's food without paying for it. On the contrary, we worked night and day, laboring and toiling so that we would not be a burden to any of you. We did this not because we do not have the right to such help, but in order to offer ourselves as a model for you to imitate. For even when we were with you, we gave you this rule: the one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. We hear that some among you are idle and disruptive. They are not busy, they are busybodies. Such people we command and urged in the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and earn the food they eat. And as for you, brothers and sisters, never tire of doing what is good. This is the word of the Lord.